Now, before we get started on the toolkit portion of the webinar, I want to remind you that the toolkit is one of three major components of the Pet Industry Sustainability Coalition. The coalition itself is a collaboration of pet companies, including yourself, who will meet 4 times a year to strategically advance sustainability by sharing information, targeting specific areas of environmental and social concern within the industry, and then innovating ways to solve those problems. The second component of the coalition is a recognition component that will evolve into best practices for the industry as a whole. This will help unify our industry by establishing a common language between manufacturers, suppliers, brands, retailers, and distributors. That's what the three logos at the top of the webinar agenda you're looking at now represent. And finally, that third component of the coalition is the toolkit, which we're focusing on today. The toolkit provides those tools and resources for all of you guys to use in order to guide your sustainability efforts. It's a web-based platform for companies to learn, measure, implement, and track your sustainability efforts. Now, before I hand this over to Toby, you may notice the second bullet point on our agenda, which is that this is our biggest week yet. Why, you wonder? We're excited to announce that the coalition website is now live, so you can go to petsustainability.org and take a look on your free time and check out some of the cool features. We'll walk through a few of those now just to give you a sense of that. Here's our homepage. You'll see a sliding representation of new things going on in the industry. You can review our What We're All About video by Chris Bentley. And you can also have access to any supporting documents that you might need. If you want to see our slideshow that we've presented to lots of companies out there, you can see that by scrolling to the bottom of the home page. You can see some of our members there and clicking on supportive documents. That'll take you to a page where you have access to some of those things you might be looking for. And another great feature of our website is to go to the Collaborate page. And here you see some fun ways for you to engage with us. You can post your own, you don't need to click there, but you can post your own comments on each of the things that we post. You can add new things that you found that are interesting. You can ask questions to the coalition and just keep tabs on what's been going on in the industry. The other portion is the toolkit. Toby will go there. And in the future, this gives you a little bit about the toolkit, but you'll be able to access the toolkit by clicking on that icon, which we won't do now, but you can do on your free time in the future. Another great thing to let you guys know about, if we go back to the agenda, another thing that makes it our big week is that membership packets went out in the mail today. So keep your eye out for a small package. These are really great, chock full of useful information that you can really get rolling to take advantage of your membership. The last thing I want to show you is a current list of members so you can get a sense of who might be in the room today. These are our founding members, and an enormous thank you to you guys. We feel so gracious that your investment, along with the in-kind contribution from Natural Capitalism Solutions, really made it possible for us to develop this toolkit so quickly right out of the gate. If you guys remember, we officially only formed in February. Also in the webinar today is Chris Bentley and his colleagues from the pet company I and Love and You. Without their vision and guidance and investment to kick this whole thing off, we wouldn't be sitting here today. So a big thanks to you guys. We only have one silver member right now, but a big thanks to Molly Mutt for coming in. And you guys can, all of you guys here as supporting members can consider joining as or upgrading your membership as well. So this just gives you an idea of who's sitting in the room with us today as we move forward. So without further ado, I will hand you over to Toby Russell, CEO of Natural Capitalism Solutions. For those of you who don't know who Natural Capitalism Solutions is, they're a nonprofit sustainability consulting firm led by world-renowned Hunter Lovins based in Longmont, Colorado. Hunter has been named Business Icon of the Century by Time Magazine and Hero of the Planet by Newsweek magazine. Her consulting firm, Natural Capitalism Solutions, has worked with companies in a variety of industries, including Cheesecake Factory, Aveda, Wells Fargo, Estee Lauder, Unilever, Johnson & Johnson, the United Nations, Cliff Bar, Kashi, and many more. With their experience creating online sustainability-focused learning platforms, Natural Capitalism Solutions realized a great opportunity to move into the entire pet industry by forming the Pet Industry Sustainability Coalition and develop our ever-expanding Pet Industry Sustainability Toolkit. Over to you, Toby.
Thank you very much, Caitlin. It's an honor to be here with all of you. Natural Capitalism Solutions, as Caitlin mentioned, is a nonprofit whose mission really is to drive sustainability throughout organizations. And the Pet Industry Sustainability Coalition is a great way of bringing together a group of people who can share best practices and excel in sustainability in a way that we couldn't do alone. One of the things I want to mention before I get started talking about the toolkit is that feel free to write questions in the questions box in your toolbar, your go-to meeting toolbar. You can also write comments in the comments field to each other, to the whole group. Feel free to be interactive because this is really about you, and the more questions that you have, the better that this will be. Um, we created the Pet Industry Sustainability Toolkit in order to be able to provide a resource that will help organizations like yours to learn about some of the key topics in sustainability, to be able to create a plan um, so that you can take the right actions around sustainability, and finally, to be able to implement that plan. As we really truly believe that sustainability is more than marketing rhetoric, and can really be about solid implementation that provides deep, deep value throughout your organization. So, without further ado, we have the homepage of the Pet Industry Sustainability Toolkit. Here you can see the navigation at the top, which has a learning section, a do section, which is an action center. There's a resource center, and also My Center, which is where you can begin to customize your plan and such like. This is phase one of the launch, and it includes a number of tools that can help an organization. We're going to continually release new tools and new functionality as we go forward. And we really want your feedback to what's working, what's not working, what you'd like to see, so that we can build resources and that map to what you need. On the right hand side here, you can see what's new. This will rotate and this will change on a regular basis, showing you what new resources are in here. It also has upcoming events that are relevant to the toolkit. We are having a 3-part webinar series. This is the first. The next part will actually have Hunter Lovins speaking about the business case for sustainability, which is going to be great. And the final piece will be looking a little deeper into tracking and some of the other functionalities of this resource. Digging into the platform, the first section that I want to bring you to is the Learning Center. The Learning Center is a place where you can really deepen your knowledge about sustainability on a number of topics. Topics such as the business case for sustainability. And you go into any of these topics and you'll see the structure is exactly the same. So the more you use this tool, the more that it will become familiar. You can navigate using the bottom arrows to get back and forth. There are downloadable resources that you can just click on and get to. So if I click on the sustainability page report, I can download that, and that will show me all of these studies that have been done by wild-eyed environmentalists like Goldman Sachs and Deloitte and Harvard and such like. As well as using the bottom navigation, there are tabs at the tops of every learning section that allow you to jump to a section that might be of interest. Within each of the sections, you'll also find links to sources where we have included sources, and that will take you to the source that you can just click on, and it will take you to the report in question or the source in question. In this case, it's a report. To go back from any page to where you were, you can use the back button in the lower left. Alternatively, you'll also see breadcrumbs at the top here, which can take you and jump you back several sections. So if I want to get back to the Learning Center, I can click on Learn on the breadcrumbs here. Every section follows exactly the same structure. You can get to additional resources. You can jump to different places. There's a lot of depth here. There's links to different parts of the website as you go through. We have information about supply chain, why that's important, and such like. So if you're looking to learn more about anything, come to the Learning Center. It will give you a list of all the live upcoming sessions. It will also give you a list of topics. There'll be additional learning resources within the Resource Center, which I'll get to later. I'm now going to jump into the second section, which is the Action Center. And the Action Center is really a place where it has resources and tools that will help you move your sustainability program forwards. For example, one of the first pieces is some simple exercises around employee engagement. So, um, how do you actually launch a program? So, on the right of every action area in the Action Center, you see who this action is relevant to. In this case, employee engagement, it's relevant to everybody. And the next steps are to do an initial launch and create a team. For the internal launch, you can click on this, and there is a pre-written email that you can edit and send out to your whole company talking about your sustainability program. We also have some resources around how you create a team. So talking about everything from it being really important to create a team, who to invite, and what you should consider when you are creating a team. What is the authority of the team? What decisions can they make? Who would make a good leader, and such like. Building efficiency is a place in phase one where we have developed a whole bunch of content and resources for you, because at Natural Capitalism, we feel that efficiency is the first step in a sustainability journey. Not only does it involve a lot of folks, facilities, operations, HR, and everyone who touches any element of efficiency, but also it provides you with much needed capital to invest in some of the more expensive programs. Here within building efficiency, you'll see that there's 3 ways to navigate through this particular section. You can go to the My Center and do the audit, answer questions, and be given a list of recommendations. Or you can look at various content areas and dig deep into actions that you can do within there. Alternatively, you can go in by building type. And building type will allow you to go in via, if you're a manufacturer, a distributor, a retail outlet, or an office, and you'll see the actions that are applicable to you. I'll go a little bit deeper into what this actually looks like. So under lighting, for example, you'll see that there are a whole list of measures that you can dig into. Similar with heating and cooling and office equipment. Going into one of those measures to show you what that actually looks like. Power management looks like something where you can learn about what it is, the benefits of it, but then you can actually look at how you go about doing that. So one of the ways to address power management is by putting in power strips that automatically power down everything that's at a station. Another way is by setting power settings on your computer. We have a list of what that does, but we also have downloadable resources that you can click on, and they essentially show you how to put the settings on your Mac, on your PC, whatever version that is, so that you can instantly go in and do that. And finally, within the power management, there's how you actually engage your employees around that. So again, there's a list of what that looks like, but there are also some resources that complement that, such as signs that you can put around asking people to turn off equipment. Again, going back, I'll go into another section looking at water to give you a little more depth. There's an overview of water. There's a list of the actions that can be pulled there. And similarly, if you go into another area here, you can see that it follows exactly the same pattern. There's an overview of efficient landscape water use here. You can click on any of the tabs above and learn about what kind of location in the country does it make sense to do certain landscaping. It goes into more depth about what xeriscaping is with some resources that you can click on. Any resource that is underlined blue takes you to an external site or resource. Any item that's underlined green will take you to an implementation section. Anything red, the learning section. Anything orange, the My Center. It's color coded where things will take you. You can also see irrigation and look at that here as well. I'm going to go into the last two sections within the Action Center, and then we're going to get to some questions and see if you guys haven't sent any questions yet and you've got some questions, feel free to send them. And then I'm going to go a little bit into the My Center and some things moving forward, so bear with me. The supply chain section has three resources within here as well currently. And again, when you're in a section, you can see who it's applicable for and who you should involve. So in this case, you should involve supply chain and purchasing. It has a pre-written email that you can send out to set up a meeting with those folks to talk about this. And the three resources that we have developed in phase one for the supply chain, we have a statement, self-assessment questionnaire. Essentially, there are a whole bunch of different questionnaires that different customers send out to their suppliers asking different questions. So Whole Foods have different demands than Safeway, have different demands than Walmart and such like. So what we've done is we've worked looking at what the key questions that customers are asking their suppliers and try and put it together in a simple form questionnaire so that you can download that, answer the questions, and see if there are any areas, any hotspots that you have not addressed that some of your customers may be asking. We also have access to the Higg Index. The Higg Index is the sustainable apparels index that they have created in order to be able to create a baseline of supply chain and how products are sustainable. It's really in depth, but it is designed for currently for the apparel industry. But there are lots of resources there that can be used for companies that are further along on their sustainability journey. And if you guys have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to us. Similarly, this is not a journey that's alone. The reason we are a coalition have formed this coalition is so that we can ask the coalition questions. So be that myself at Natural Capitalism Solutions and my team here, Caitlin Bolton, who's the executive director of the coalition. But you can also ask each other questions. So if you have a question about something, we may know who's already addressed that and point you in their directions. We don't want to be reinventing the wheel, which is why we are using a lot of resources that Natural Capitalism has developed with clients from all around the globe. The final piece within the supply chain that we have here is a purchasing policy. Again, you can download it. It's available, and you'll see here, you can download a Word version and customize it and make it on your own. You can download a vendor letter that's drafted that you can edit and send out to your vendors. But essentially what this does, it's a environmental purchasing policy that allows you to think about how you're purchasing things. It has a list of questions that you should ask as you are buying different materials and a background on this, the benefits. And as you go down, I'll show you a couple of examples. It looks at different materials and it looks at prioritizing the sustainable attributes of each of those different materials so that you can see whether post-consumer recycled content in paper is better than having unbleached processed chlorine-free paper, and the benefits that each of those provide in terms of energy, transport, waste, resource conservation, water, and toxics. It covers a whole bunch of different materials from paper to cotton to ink to steel and metal, and also to pet food ingredients and seafood ingredients and such like, so that you can really begin to understand what impacts your purchases are having and how to prioritize sustainability when you're making those purchases. Finally, the last section that we currently have in phase one of the Action Center is the Communication Center section. And this has two key areas. Again, who you want to involve in this. You want to involve the C-suite, HR, marketing. And then what you do, you need to review the rules, you need to set up a meeting, and you also need to write a commitment statement and post that on your website. The communication rules in this section essentially walk you through 6 different rules that we have found are best practices when companies are communicating about sustainability. What we've found is that there are a lot of companies that are doing sustainability, but they are not talking about it because they're afraid that if they talk about what it is they are doing, that people will begin to ask them what it is that they're not doing. But if you're doing great things, talking about it in a way that is Rule 3, transparent, is very effective. You don't have to claim to be the greenest company on earth. You can just essentially list out what you've done. Each of these rules has key pieces you can follow. And as this toolkit grows, we're going to be adding more and more case studies and examples from other industries, but also from you guys. So if you guys have success stories that you've achieved or things that you feel you're done well that you want represented on this toolkit for other people to understand, send us those so that we can share your success stories and case stories. It not only puts you in good standing, but it will also provide depth and more information for folks. So you can dig through each of these rules and get a deeper understanding about what the best practices are around sustainability communication. Finally, the last resource is the commitment statement within the Action Center. And here you can access that. And what it does is it gives you a list of things that you should do when creating a commitment statement. It's one of the first external actions that an organization should take once they've addressed some of the internal pieces. You can see it's important to frame it the right way. And here again, you can click on examples and it will show you examples of companies that have framed their commitment statements well. It's also important to maybe list the achievements that you've already made. Again, there are plenty of examples within this that people can access that will help them create their own commitment statement that maps to their organization's values and such like. So that's just a quick overview. There's a lot of depth there that I can't get into in a quick go over, which is why we have this a 3-part series, because we're going to dig deep into some of these areas in the other webinar sessions that we have. We're going to stop now and take a moment for questions. Again, if you've got any questions, feel free to post them in the questions box on your GoToWebinar control panel. And we'll get to those as soon as we can. I'm going to just pause for 1 second while I get a list of the current questions we have, and I'll be back with you momentarily. So the first question that I have here is that my company is just beginning with sustainability, and we're not sure exactly where to start. I'm going to actually, that's a good question that will lead me into the next piece, so I may get back to that. The other question I have here is, how do I know what sustainability strategies will save me money? again, a great question, and I'll answer those as I move forwards. The first question about how do you know where to start is that within my center, which is the third center here, or at the bottom, you have a, a roadmap or a link to a roadmap, which is really a resource for organizations that are just beginning the journey. And what it does is it has a list of all of the actions and learning pieces that I just walked through in an order that makes sense for a company that's just beginning out. You can roll over the I, and wherever you see an I throughout the toolkit, that means information. You can just roll over that and it will give you information about the page you're on. If you do have any questions or concerns about how to navigate through and something that just doesn't make any sense, feel free to give us feedback by clicking on the feedback button at the bottom. But rolling over the eye on the roadmap, it shows you that the order of a sustainability program should follow the lines in the road here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 downwards. And also on this roadmap, you'll see the number 2 in an orange circle. That number 2 indicates phase 2 resources. So if I roll over that number 2 wherever it is, it will show me what resources in these areas will be coming out in phase 2 of the launch, which we're looking to do towards the end of the year. So here you can see that the first steps, and this is answering that question, is that there is an internal launch, you create the team, you do some education on the right hand side here, and then you do your audit, you set targets, and you track your success, both in terms of utilities and GHG, so that you can talk about your story effectively moving forwards. It's not particularly effective to do a whole bunch of things and have no idea what you're saving. The best sustainability programs track well, and they use the data to either fund the program moving forwards, or they use the data to be able to share the successes with their employees, with their customers and consumers and such like. The fourth piece to look at is building efficiency, supply chain, purchasing policy, all of those tools within the Action Center. And then the final piece would be looking at doing some of that external communication. So phase 1 of this toolkit is really fairly comprehensive for someone who's just beginning on the sustainability journey, but there are a lot of in-depth resources here that are useful for anyone to dive into wherever they feel is relevant for them. Another way of understanding what is relevant for you is by going into the audit tool. The functionality here is essentially right now in phase 1 is a downloadable resource that you go through and answer 30 questions and put in your average monthly utility data. From there, it will give you the kinds of savings that you could expect to see, a percentage of savings for each of your utilities that you could expect to see, and a list of measures that you can do that link directly back to this toolkit. There is also the ability to track your data within that audit on the second tab. And if you track your data there, then effectively you can use that. But there are other ways of tracking your data. And the third tab here is what's in the My Center is called the paw print. And that's essentially a place that will provide you with different tracking resources, one of which is the tab on the quick and dirty audit. The second is by using Energy Star's Portfolio Manager. Portfolio Manager is a free resource that Energy Star have. It allows you to baseline against other organizations. It communicates with a whole bunch of utilities so that you can automatically populate your utility data into that. There's no data entry required. One of the biggest barriers to successfully tracking your utility data is the fact that somebody has to enter it in, and when people are busy, it's the last thing that ever happens. So having it automatically populate is really important. And with Energy Star right now, though, which is great timing for our launch, is that we essentially They essentially are releasing a new version of the portfolio manager on July 5th, I think, which means that nobody's able to create a new account or upload any data between now and then. Um, I'm really excited because from everything we've seen to date, the functionality of portfolio managers tracking, which also allows you to do GHG analysis too, it has vastly improved. So when that comes out, we'll do another webinar educating anyone who's interested in how to use that resource effectively. The final way of tracking would be by going to your utility company and seeing if they have a preferred tracking mechanism that they automatically populate into. Again, if you can get it so it automatically populates, then you're going to remove most of the barriers towards getting that done. Within the audit and within each of the measures, if I'm to go back into, say, building efficiency and look at office equipment and, say, go into the power management, you can see some of the savings that you can make when you implement stuff on the right-hand side. This is an answer to the question of how do I understand how much each of these will save me. Also within the audit tool, we'll give a range of ROI that you can expect to see from implementing various measures. Um, the reality is sustainability is more complex, and we have created a whole bunch of calculators that require a bunch of data collection up front in the past for different software offerings that we've put out there. And what we found is that very few people actually go into those and put the time into collecting the data. They want to know roughly what the savings will be, but we have a whole bunch of calculators built out that we're not including within phase one, but we would happily refine and include if people are interested in. Also, we as a resource for members who are contributing, people can come to us and we can begin to calculate out more detailed ROIs on various initiatives that you guys want to do. We have all of that back end here to just be able to plop data into to make your job easy. Our role with this toolkit, with the coalition, and our want is to make it all as simple as possible for you so that when you're moving forwards, we can help remove any barriers that there are to implementing sustainability in your organization. Okay. We're going to take some time for some more questions. The We only have one more question that has been written here. So if you do have any other questions, feel free to again write them in the questions area. The last question that I have just here, which means we might be able to finish this off a little earlier and give you guys a little more of your Friday. The last question that I have here is there are some resources that I see in version 2. When will it come out? I mentioned briefly that it will be out in the fall and towards the end of the year, but it also depends on resources in terms that this version of the toolkit we started developing before we had um, other when Chris and Ian Love and you put forth this idea that we should put together a sustainability coalition for the pet industry. We decided that a huge part of that needs to be tactical resources that folks can use in order to be able to maximize their program. And so, with some support from Ian Love and you, we put together this phase one of the toolkit. But member support moving forwards will have a percentage going towards creating resources for the coalition. And the more members that contribute, the more resources we'll be able to do. But we want to make sure that we can make resources that are relevant for you, that you all want. So we'll be sending out questionnaires. We'll be speaking to the contributing members and working out what's working for them in the toolkit, what isn't, what they'd like to see. We want to provide as much support as we can up front so that we can make this as streamlined a process for you. We're really excited to have this much here already on after 2 months of officially being announced, 3 months of officially being announced, and we look forward to building more as we move forwards. The final, so that's, if anyone has any more questions, I'll get to those in a minute. I've just got a final piece that I want to talk to. I'm not going to, Spencer has a question. Spencer from West Paw. Can you mention the attendees when the next coalition meeting will be? That's going to be a question for Caitlin, so I'm going to throw that over to Caitlin after my final comment. The final area is the resource center. If you click on that, that's going to be released in a few weeks, that particular section, and it's going to have a bunch of resources in different areas that allow you to look into videos on energy or employee engagement articles and such like. It'll also have recommended vendors, partners that you can work with, also have access to some of the and feeds from top news sources, be that Triple Pundit or GreenBiz or Fast Company and such like, so that when you go into that resource center, it will give you some of the more in depth and more channels to go to find existing tools that are out there around sustainability. We're really looking forward to putting this online for you guys to get. We'll send you an announcement when that happens. It's going to be in the very, very near future. I'm going to pass the microphone over to Caitlin, who's going to talk about some of the next steps moving forwards. But at Natural Capitalism, we really look forward to engaging with you around not only this toolkit, but around creating, working with you, helping you with your sustainability plan moving forwards. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Toby. I'm gonna go back to the agenda. We do have some steps to go over in terms of what to do next with your membership. So, thanks everyone for taking the time to join us. And we hope that one of the first things you'll do is go register for our next two webinars. As you know, it's a three-part series, so we want to make sure that you have the resources you need. We're going to dig deeper into some of those specific areas and also provide a live question and answer session. I think this will be really valuable if you get to a place where you're not sure where to go, or your results don't make sense to you. I think that can be a useful time to ask some of those questions. It's likely that you're not alone if you're having an issue, so we want to make sure that there's frequent issues that we can address those. So Spencer mentioned what to do next. First of all, I mentioned that the membership packets are in the mail to you, so keep your eye out for that. The first thing in that membership packet is a checklist of things that can really help you make the most of your membership. You do need to mark your calendar for the next coalition meeting, which is July 24th at 1 p.m. in the Mandalay Bay Conference Center. We'll be sending an RSVP link soon. We will add an agenda to go with that. So we'll be spotlighting early success stories from our members from using the toolkit, and it'll be the first time we're really all joining together and meeting in one place. So that's all I have on the agenda for today. If there's additional questions, I want to make sure that we go ahead and answer those. We do have about 10 minutes if there's anything that anyone would like to say.
I just saw a note that there was a lot of feedback happening because there were two mics on. For some reason, the second computer here mic came on, so we have turned that off. Were people able to hear Caitlin's last piece? If somebody could write back, that would be great to know. We'll repeat that last piece if people couldn't hear. But if people could hear, then we'll wait for any more questions. And if we don't get any, then we'll log off and hope that you all enjoy your Friday.
All right, it looks like you guys could hear me. So everyone say a big happy birthday to Toby, because today is Toby's birthday. This will be live shortly. We'll have the recording up on the website, and take some time to check it out. Thanks everyone for attending, and we'll speak to you soon.